This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're here at the MicroCap Conference 2015 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With me right now is Brandon Mackie from Small Cap Discoveries. It's a newsletter. Brandon, welcome to SNN Live.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so I'm a little familiar with your newsletter. I've read a couple of the articles, and you guys tend to focus on Canadian technology companies. So tell me, living down in the U.S., why should I be focusing on this and reading your newsletter?
Well, first of all, if you've been watching the currency markets over the last year, it's now 30% cheaper for U.S. investors to invest in Canada. So right off the bat, you're at a huge advantage. Second of all, structurally, the Canadian markets are very focused on the resource space, oil and gas, mining. There's almost no tech analysts at a lot of these brokerage firms. So you've got less eyes on the story, more opportunity for mispricing, and that's where we think a lot of the advantage is. The third component is a lot of these software companies are transitioning from a licensing model to more of a software as a service model. So there's a temporary decline in revenues. It's one time, so the stocks can get sold off, but they're building a book of recurring revenues. And if you can recognize that and be early to these kind of stories, it can really pay off in the mid to long term.
You know, you bring up an interesting point. I mean, we've been covering the resource market for a long time, and we know it's very heavily Canadian-based. And, you know, what's your background? How did you specifically start covering this space?
Well, my background's interesting. I actually I'm a chemical engineer by background, and I was out working for Chevron in Houston, Texas, and I got really into value investing. I read all the classics, Warren Buffett, Ben Graham, and somewhere along the way I started blogging about my own trading and my philosophies and my ideas, and I got picked up by a hedge fund in Houston that just happened to be running an activist campaign on a company I profiled for the blog. And they said, why don't you come over and help us manage some money? So they gave me $1 million to manage. And that's what really got me started in the microcap space. And from there, I moved out to Los Angeles to work at a startup and met up with Paul out of Vancouver, focused my efforts more on the Canadian side. And I'm now a U.S. investor investing exclusively in Canada because that's where the deals are.
Let's get into what some of the sectors specifically that you cover in technology in Canada, because it has this rich tradition as well in technology. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the sectors you cover, you know, from the top down?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest right now we're seeing is the fiber optic space. You know, with the proliferation of mobile devices, the need for fiber and data and bandwidth is at an all-time high. And so that innovative companies that can find a way to get that last mile fiber connected to homes are in a really sweet spot. Additionally, we see a lot of interesting plays in the software as a service space. Niche companies, whether it's technology to improve how you remodel homes or technology for counting currency, there's a lot of really interesting niche companies in Canada that really dominate and are growing with the tailwinds in the software space.
And our audience can go and find out more information about some of the companies that you're covering on your website within these spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. We profile each company we invest in, and there's a lot of information right on our site.
Okay, so another question I have, as a U.S. citizen and I'm interested in Canadian stocks, you know, how do you advise people to go and participate?
Well, I think first of all, it's, you know, getting educated. You know, we have a blog on our website. You can learn sort of the nuances of the Canadian markets. And the good news is a lot of brokerage houses, especially online ones, support Canadian investing. For example, Fidelity will give you the U.S. price, $7.95 a trade, and they'll execute it in Canada to make it a seamless process for you to invest.
And also, how do you also handle companies that are dual listed? Or do you only focus on companies that are listed on one of the Canadian exchanges? Well,
we actually encourage a lot of the companies that we invest in to pursue a dual listing. It makes it a lot more accessible for U.S. investors. You know, I have international trading set up on my account, so I can go over there. But it's very simple to set up a pink sheet listing for a Canadian company. It could be done at a low cost and give you access to a whole realm of U.S. investors.
And are there any tips or tricks that you've learned throughout your years, you know, looking at this sector that, you know, maybe our U.S. audience might not even realize?
Yeah, I think what's really helped us is to focus, especially in Canada. There's a lot of resource and mining stocks out there. Those are challenging, especially for novice investors new to the space. It's very specialized. And So what we'd recommend is to go on SEDAR, that's SEDAR.com, and you can look at daily filings. And you can screen from there anything that has mining or resource and just focus on the Canadian stocks. Will give you a really good idea, what companies are out there, who's reporting positive earnings, who's signing new contracts, and lead you in the direction of some of these exciting plays that we've found through our experience.
And where can our audience go and find out more information about your newsletter and the blog?
So we're at smallcapdiscoveries.com. You can go right on our website. There's a public blog with a lot of educational resources, and read some of our sample work if you're interested in subscribing.
And where can we follow you on Twitter?
We're at smallcapdiscoveries is our handle.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm live on SNN Live, and we're here at the MicroCap Conference 2015 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With me again has been Brandon Mackie from Small Cap Discoveries. It's a newsletter. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on to SNN Live.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.